Hello and welcome to another episode of Crypto Chart. I'm Fausto Botelho, broadcasting from Brazil, and we're going to take a look in the cryptos and quickly in the S&P. Shall we? Well, to begin with Nasdaq. Nasdaq has definitely resumed its upward movement, its bullish trend. So here we go. What can we expect? Considering that this is similar to an ascending triangle, we should pick a height of this magnitude and project it forward. So meaning the Nasdaq, and I mean the Nasdaq 100, has a potential to go up to 9,200, which is about 11% upward movement. The S&P has also confirmed today, closed in the highs, so we should consider this as a flag. So this upward movement, this bullish market, this bullish trend has not been reversed yet. On the contrary, the market has resumed its upward movement, and we should expect two upward movements, two objectives. Either we project as if this was a ascending triangle, and we have an objective of 3360, which would mean an upward movement of another 8.7, 8 to 9%, or we could project this last upward movement here onwards from this last low here, and that would project 3700, meaning that market could go as far as 20%. But we are still in alert because remembering the Dow theory, if we go to the Dow Jones Transportation Index, we see that it is absolutely not confirming the S&P. And this is not indexed by the CPI. The S&P I showed you and the Nasdaq were indexed by the CPI. If we index these, let's see what would happen if we would index these by the CPI as well. We would have, well, not very far from what we're having here. The thing is that we're testing a resistance level. That's the point, right? So we haven't got the trend reverted, but we're still testing it. If we take CPI out, which is what Americans and most people see, because we have a inflation culture here in Brazil. I have an inflation culture. That's why I index all my charts. And well, I forgot to show you the Dow Jones Industrial Average, which we should also take a look. And looking at the Dow, this Dow Jones, for instance, has to be indexed, or otherwise we would have, as I've shown in the market in the channel all the times. Otherwise, we would see something like that, which is something that only goes up. But the thing is that in this period, since 1913, actually, not in this period, since 1913 here, when the index, when inflation started to be before the U.S. charge for income tax, from 1913, we had this inflation, 2,506%. So taking this inflation out of this just goes up chart, we would see that this accumulation would turn into a downtrend that could be compared to 29. And there's a whole new perspective for this upward movement, this century upward movement of the Dow Jones. And we see that it is high there above the clouds, right? So back to the daily chart here and to candles, we see that the Dow, well, it has also break the resistance level that eventually would be perceived, well, last time the highest was here. So we could barely say that it broke the last resistance line, right? Because yesterday it had these long shadow here, and today there's a doji candle. So we kind of doubt about this break of the, and I still have to show you the utility average index, which is in which has kind of reverted. I should increase this line here, the support trend level that comes from 2002, passes by 2008, and you see it's it has just topped with a double top, and it's going down. One index is going up, other two very important indexes are going down. That's why I doubt seriously on this breakout of the S&P. So let's wait and see what happens. But it's hard to fight against quantitative easings, the quantitative easings of the Fed, which is not quantitative easings, but it is quantitative easing or whatever, right? And let's wait and see what that will lead us to, whether the S&P is going to really confirm that it is on a new upward movement, or if it's going to produce a very bombastic and dramatic bull trap for us. So let's go to Bitcoin now and some coins that we're keeping an eye on. So next one is here, Bitcoin, which I'm going to tell you why I think Bitcoin is going up, and it can go a lot. I've already spoken in the channel that I don't know why this is happening here. Well, never mind. Yeah, I know. Charts. Sorry about that. Yeah, I have to take that off. Yeah, better now. Okay, so I've said that nothing in terms of technical analysis of stocks, commodities, Forex, we start to analyze when it's below zero. So Bitcoin starts below zero, and then it goes up to $30-some, and then comes down to near $2, and then it stabilizes at $5. So I think this is the first move of Bitcoin that turned it into a, whatever you want to call it, commodity or currency, coin, whatever. Right. Then from $5 on, I think we should then start counting the Elliott waves. The difference would be that if we want to start counting Elliott here, then we could have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. And if we already have wave 5 here, we could eventually, we eventually should draw Fibonacci lines, and the first correction level Fibonacci would be under 200. I don't think that's what's happening, because as I told you, I think we should exclude these, and if we do, then we have waves 1, 2, 3, 4, and we're heading to wave 5 now. We're already in wave 5. Let me tell you why. The most important thing I think there is to be considered in this chart is that this downward trend is a corrective wave. It's not an impulsive wave. All this is a corrective wave, meaning we see an ABC here. And I want to go to the hourly chart, to the daily chart to tell you why I think it is so. I don't know why it was not log here, log scale. Okay, so why do I think this is a corrective wave? Because when I see this downtrend here, I can count 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 easily, right? So 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. That's an impulsive wave. Being an impulsive wave, I could eventually call this wave A. Now, here, it's clearly a descending triangle. So a descending triangle, it's by definition a corrective wave. And here, we can see with our eyes that this is an impulsive wave. Actually, it almost millimetric reached the objective that can be projected from the descending triangle, right? So that gives me the right to understand that I've seen so far A, B correct, A impulsive, B corrective, and C impulsive, A, B, C, that fulfill a corrective wave, which I think, as I showed you in the chart before, that is what we can call wave 4. Now, after that, we so far have had this impulsive wave. Why is that? Well, first because we had these inverted head and shoulders here, and then we had so far 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and so that's an impulsive wave. So after a corrective wave, an impulsive wave gives me the right to understand that that's the beginning of a new impulsive wave, especially because we've had so far 2 other impulsive waves in the past, right? So yes, this should be an impulsive wave, and that should be wave 5. So where could wave 5 go, and what's happening now? Well, if that's an impulsive wave, I should see what's happening here as a corrective wave. And talking about a corrective wave, well, then let's use Fibonacci to measure what so far has this corrective wave done. And I see that it has entered the Fibonacci correction level. So it already paid its price, right? It already corrected to Fibonacci level. So it is cleared to, to the moon or to wave 3 of wave 5, right? And so we can also draw a trend channel here. And what happened in this spot of the trend channel, the guideline of this trend channel? Well, it reverted, but there's something very interesting here. It broke the support level and then it reverted. Well, that's a bear trap. So Bitcoin just gave us a bear trap after having entered Fibonacci levels, after in an impulsive wave. So it's just playing by the book, definitely playing by the book. So well, so what's left now? What's happening right now, right? And what's happening right now? Well, what's happening is an upward flag that today just barely touched the guideline here of the upward flag. So if we go to the hourly chart, I think it's time to buy. And if that comes into a downward flag, it could go a little further down, but then it would stop at 800, 8600 or whatever. But I really don't think that's happening for the reasons that I just told you before. So I'm very bullish in Bitcoin, and now it just remains for us to find out where should it go, where this upward movement, where wave 5 could take Bitcoin. Well, let's take a look back to the weekly chart, which makes it more easy for us to see. Well, I don't know where is it going, but we can ask the market. And I've measured here the last movement of wave 3, which is wave 5 of wave 3, right? So if Bitcoin just repeats this last portion of wave 3, we're heading to $67,000. If it repeats wave 3 itself, we are heading to $330,000. And if it repeats, it's not showing here, but I'm gonna tell you that this is wave 1, right? If it goes as far as where wave 1, or what wave 1 has done, it's $760 some $1,000. So that's the reason why I am very indeed bullish in Bitcoin. But we as we think Bitcoin is going to the moon, we want to increase our Bitcoin capital. So for that we have the altcoins, and I'm going to show you some altcoins which we're keeping an eye on. Shall we? Let's go. They're right over here. An eye in cryptos, and organizing in alphabetic order here, and putting them all in daily chart. And well, first one is Augur. Look, it after this huge downtrend, it a resistance level, and now it's flagging up. So I think that's one of the outs to keep an eye on. For that, we just take this to the hourly chart, and let's see what happens here. Maybe it gives us a symmetrical triangle flag. I don't think it's going to happen anymore, but well, anyway, this can become a rectangle because it has already three tops in the same level, right? So that's how we keep an eye on it, right? Next one is BNB, which has reverted in this upward trend line, and it's now testing this downward trend line, resistance trend line, and I think it's flagging up. So we're keeping a close eye in BINANCE Coin, one of the most interesting projects in the space. ITCOIN is kind of test this resistance trend line here, and if breaks this line, I think it could go as far as this resistance level, and that would mean well, if it just comes to this resistance trend line, it's 40% upward movement. So there's trade in there. EOS token has broken this resistance trend line, and it's flagging up. We're keeping an eye also. Oh, sorry, there's two of these. NEO, well, NEO is the Ethereum, the Chinese Ethereum. Ethereum is heading down. EOS, well, I'm gonna have to show you EOS because I don't think I placed it in this tag here. But anyway, if Ethereum doesn't go up and if EOS doesn't go up, maybe it's NEO the one that's gonna win the race, right? So back to the chart, it's flagging up, testing these resistance. I think important resistance trend line here, and I should also draw this line. So besides this resistance trend line, that there's this resistance, beside this resistance level, there's this resistance trend line here. So if it breaks that, sorry, it could go as far as some 40% up also, and if it corrects Fibonacci levels, it would go much further up, right? To this level, this resistance level here, that would be more or less 100% upward movement. So that's why we keep an eye. Ontology, see, broke this resistance level. I should draw another resistance trend line here. It could come to this resistance trend line or this resistance level here. That would mean approximately 45%. There's trade in there too. A nice trade could be done there. And also Quantum, which is testing this resistance trend line with an upward flag to what I think is an upward flag. Well, VeChain just got up like a rocket and didn't give us any chance, besides this day here that closed very far away from its possible stop, 20% or something. There couldn't be a trade there, but we're expecting it to make another flag here, and if it does, from here to the resistance trend level, there's another 50% upward movement. So this is it. Let me just show you guys EOS, which is right here. We're also taking a look, and I think after having breaking these resistance trend line, which I think could be considered as a neckline of these inverted head and shoulders, it's flagging up, and let's see what the hourly chart tells us. Well, we should wait a little bit more, but that's why we're keeping an eye on it. So this is it for today. I hope you enjoyed the video. Don't forget to sign the channel, and also click the bell to be advised whenever I make new channels. Now I am putting an English flag in the cover, in the timeline, for you to know it's a English video. I also do videos in Portuguese, but I hope you enjoyed it, and I'll see you next time. Ciao.